The stars looked the same as always, cold, distant, and completely uninterested in whatever happened down here in the dark between them. Corporal Jinho checked his scanner again, watching the green line sweep across the screen like it had done 1,000 times before. Nothing. Just rocks and dust and the endless black of the neutral zone. "Another exciting day in paradise," Doyen muttered over the comm. The demolitions expert sounded bored, which was usually a good sign. Bored meant safe. Bored meant they might actually finish this patrol without incident. Jinho smiled inside his helmet. "Stay sharp. We've got another 4 hours before rotation." 4 hours of looking at nothing, Mina added from her position on the ridge above them. The sniper had the best view of the area, which meant she had the best view of absolutely nothing happening. "I'm starting to think the Velksari don't even know this sector exists." "That's the point," Hyun said. The medic walked beside Jinho, his scanner set to biological readings instead of tactical ones. "Neutral zone means nobody comes here. We watch it, they watch it, and everyone stays on their side." Jinho nodded, even though nobody could see him. The Velksari Empire and humanity had agreed to this arrangement 3 years ago, after both sides realized they'd expanded right into each other's territory. No war, no conflict, just a big empty buffer zone that patrol squads like his had to watch in case anyone got stupid ideas. The Velksari were strange. Everyone knew that. They had 4 arms, skin that changed colors like oil on water, and they thought about everything in terms of pure logic. No emotions, no passion, just cold calculation. They'd been traveling the stars for millions of years while humans were still living in caves. That kind of age made them powerful, but it also made them slow, careful, boring, if Jinho was being honest. Humans were different. Humans were fast, chaotic, unpredictable. In just 200 years, humanity had gone from barely leaving Earth to claiming dozens of star systems. The Velksari watched this happen with what their ambassadors called concern and interest. Jinho figured it was probably closer to confusion and annoyance. "Contact," Mina's voice cut through his thoughts, sharp and focused. "Small vessel, Velksari design, 2 kilometers north, it's not moving." Jinho felt his heart rate pick up, just a little. "You sure it's Velksari?" "Hull pattern matches their scout ships. But it's dark. No power signature, no active systems. It's just floating there." "Could be a trap," Doyen said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Could be bait to see if we'll cross into their territory." "We're in the neutral zone," Hyun pointed out. "So are they, technically. If it's a disabled ship, there might be survivors." Jinho pulled up the tactical display on his helmet screen. The ship was definitely in neutral space, right on the edge of the boundary. If there were Velksari inside and they were hurt, leaving them would be cold, but approaching could trigger an incident. Both human and Velksari command took the neutral zone seriously. "Orders, Corporal?" Mina asked. This was the part Jinho hated about being in charge. The decision was his. He could call it in, let command handle it, and go back to their boring patrol. That was the safe choice, the smart choice, the choice that wouldn't get anyone in trouble. But if there were people dying in that ship while he waited for orders, he'd never forgive himself. "We investigate," Jinho said. "Mina, keep overwatch. If anything moves, anything at all, you call it out. Doyun, Hyun, with me. We approach careful and slow." They moved across the rocky terrain in standard formation, weapons ready but not raised. The Velksari ship grew larger as they got closer. It was small, meant for 2 or 3 crew at most. The hull showed signs of damage, scorched metal, and a crack running along one side. Something had hit it hard. "No radiation," Hyun reported. "Whatever happened, it wasn't a reactor breach." "That's good news for them," Doyen said. "Bad news for us is we don't know what did this." Jinho approached the airlock, examining the alien mechanism. Velksari technology was advanced, but it followed logical patterns. He found the emergency release and pulled. The door hissed open, revealing a dark interior lit only by dim emergency lights. The inside of the ship was designed for beings with 4 arms. Controls were positioned in ways that made no sense for human hands. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet that Jinho couldn't identify. His suit registered the atmosphere as breathable, but he kept his helmet on anyway. "One life sign," Hyun said quietly, pointing toward the back of the ship. "Weak, but stable." They found her in what looked like a pilot's chair, though it was hard to tell with Velksari furniture. She was smaller than Jinho expected. The Velksari in the official videos always looked tall and imposing, but she was barely his height. Her skin shifted through colors slowly, deep blues and purples that seemed to pulse with her breathing. 2 of her 4 arms hung limp, and there was a dark stain on her side that might have been blood. Her eyes opened as they approached. They were large, completely black, and fixed on Jinho with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Human," she said in perfect Korean, her voice soft and precise. "This is unexpected." Jinho froze. The Velksari knew human languages, but hearing one speak his native tongue in this situation felt surreal. "We found your ship," he said carefully. "You're in neutral space. We're here to help." "Help," she repeated, as if testing the word. A curious human impulse. Logic would suggest leaving me to minimize diplomatic complications. "Yeah, well, we're not always logical," Jinho said. He nodded to Hyun. "Can you treat her?" Hyun moved forward slowly, scanner in hand. "I'll need to check Velksari physiology in my database, but basic trauma treatment should work." The Velksari woman watched them with those unsettling black eyes. "I am Kaya. Intelligence Officer, 3rd Velksari Fleet. My ship was damaged by debris while conducting reconnaissance." "Reconnaissance in the neutral zone?" Doyen asked, suspicious. "As your patrol demonstrates, both sides monitor this space," Kaya said. "I was observing human expansion patterns when the incident occurred." Hyun worked on her injuries while Jinho tried to figure out what to do next. This was definitely above his clearance level. A Velksari intelligence officer in neutral space, injured and alone. Command would need to know. Both commands would need to know. But Kaya was watching him, her gaze never wavering. There was something in that look he couldn't read, something that seemed less like cold Velksari logic and more like genuine curiosity. "You are Corporal Jinho," she said suddenly. It wasn't a question. "Your file indicates exceptional tactical decisions and a tendency toward actions based on ethical considerations rather than pure strategic advantage." "You've been reading up on me?" Jinho asked, surprised. "I read files on all human patrol leaders in adjacent sectors," Kaya said. "Understanding your species requires extensive study. You are unlike anything else in the known galaxy." The way she said it made it sound like both a compliment and a concern. Hyun worked carefully, his hands steady despite treating an alien for the first time. The medical scanner beeped softly as it cross-referenced Velksari anatomy with its database. Kaya sat perfectly still, watching every movement with those bottomless black eyes. "The wound is clean," Hyun said after a few minutes. "Whatever hit you missed anything vital. You're lucky." "Luck is an inefficient concept," Kaya replied. "But I understand the sentiment." Jinho stood a few feet away, trying to figure out his next move. Protocol said he should report this immediately, but something told him the moment he opened that comm channel, everything would get complicated fast. Better to stabilize the situation first, make sure Kaya wasn't dying, then figure out the diplomatic mess. "How long were you drifting?" he asked. "Approximately 7 hours," Kaya said. "My distress beacon was damaged in the collision. I had resigned myself to eventual life support failure." "7 hours is a long time to think about dying," Doyen said from his position by the door. The demolitions expert hadn't relaxed at all, his weapons still ready. "I do not fear death," Kaya said simply. "It is merely a state of non-existence. However, I did experience regret." "Regret?" Jinho asked. "I thought Velksari didn't do emotions." Kaya's skin rippled through a pattern of silver and blue. Hyan had explained that Velksari skin colors reflected their internal state, but nobody really understood the code. "We experience emotions differently than humans, less intensely, more analytically, but we do feel them." Hyan sealed the medical patch over her wound and stepped back. "You should be fine. The damage was mostly superficial. You'll need proper medical care eventually, but this will hold." "Thank you," Kaya said. She tested her injured arms, moving them slowly. "Your kindness is noted and appreciated." "Just doing our job?" Jinho said. He activated his comm to call command, but Kaya's voice stopped him. "Before you report this, may I ask you a question, Corporal?" Jinho paused. "That depends on the question. Why did you help me?" Kaya tilted her head in a gesture that seemed almost human. "You could have reported the vessel and waited for orders. Instead, you risked diplomatic incident and possible ambush. The logical choice was clear, yet you chose otherwise." "Someone was in trouble," Jinho said with a shrug. "Didn't matter who they were." "Fascinating," Kaya said softly. She stood, moving with surprising grace despite her injuries. She was close now, close enough that Jinho could see the strange patterns shifting across her skin. "This is why we watch you. This is why you concern us." "Because we help people?" Doyon asked, confused. "Because you act on impulse driven by emotion rather than calculation," Kaya explained. "Your species conquered space in mere centuries. You adapt to anything. You survive impossible situations. You make decisions based on feelings we can barely understand." Her skin pulsed with deep purple. "You are chaos given form, and chaos is the one thing the Velksari cannot predict or control." "You make us sound dangerous," Jinho said. "You are dangerous," Kaya replied, "but perhaps not in the way we initially believed." She stepped closer to Jinho, and he found himself frozen in place. There was something in her posture, something in the way she moved that seemed intentional, calculated. Velksari didn't do anything without purpose. "For months, I have studied human behavior," Kaya said quietly. "Your art, your literature, your social structures. I have tried to understand what drives you, what makes you so different from every other species in known space." "And?" Jinho asked, aware that Doyon and Hyan were watching this exchange with growing confusion. Kaya's skin shifted through a rapid pattern of colors. Her four hands moved in complex gestures that might have meant something in Velksari body language. Then she leaned in close, so close that Jinho could feel the warmth radiating from her alien body. She whispered directly into his ear, her voice soft and precise. "We would make beautiful children." "Human." For a moment, time seemed to stop completely. Jinho's brain tried to process what he'd just heard, but it was like his thoughts had hit a wall and shattered into pieces. Did she just say what he thought she said? In perfect Korean? About children? With him? Behind him, Doyon made a choking sound. "What?" Hyan dropped his medical scanner, the device clattering against the metal floor. Jinho stumbled backward, his face burning despite the helmet's climate control. You... What did you just..." Kaya watched his reaction with apparent interest, her head tilted like a scientist observing an experiment. "Did I use the phrase incorrectly?" The translation matrix indicated this was an appropriate expression of genetic compatibility interest. "Genetic compatibility," Jinho's voice came out as a squeak. He cleared his throat and tried again. "You're talking about having kids?" "The Velksari have been studying human genetics for potential partnership programs," Kaya said calmly, as if she was discussing weather patterns. Your DNA contains remarkable adaptive properties. Combined with Velksari longevity and intelligence, the theoretical offspring would possess exceptional qualities. "Oh my God," Doyen said, his voice rising. "Oh my God, she's serious. The alien is serious about this. This is not in the first contact protocols." Hyun's professional medical composure had completely evaporated. Nobody said anything about aliens asking about kids. Mina's voice crackled over the comm from her overwatch position. "Did someone just say kids? What's happening in there?" Jinho held up his hands, trying to regain some control of the situation. "Everyone calm down. Kaya, you can't say things like that to humans you just met." "Why not?" Kaya asked, genuinely curious. "Among Velksari, genetic compatibility is discussed openly. It is a logical topic. Among humans, it's..." Jinho struggled to find words. "It's personal, intimate. You don't just whisper that to strangers." "But we are not strangers," Kaya pointed out. "You saved my life. By human social standards, this creates a bond. Several of your romantic narratives follow this exact pattern." "She's been watching our movies," Doyun said weakly. "The alien has been studying human romance movies." "For research purposes," Kaya confirmed. "To understand your mating rituals and social bonding practices." Jinho felt his grip on the situation slipping away completely. This had gone from a simple rescue mission to the most awkward first contact scenario in human history. He could already imagine the report he'd have to write, if he could even figure out how to write it. "Corporal, seriously, what is happening?" Mina demanded over the comm. Hyun was laughing now, the kind of hysterical laughter that meant someone's brain had given up trying to process reality. Doyen had his hand over his faceplate, shoulders shaking. "Did I cause offense?" Kaya asked, noticing their reactions. "Human emotional responses are difficult to interpret. Your facial expressions and body language suggest distress, but also amusement. And Corporal Jinho's elevated heart rate could indicate either fear or attraction." "You can tell my heart rate?" Jinho asked. "I can sense bioelectric fields," Kaya explained. "Your cardiovascular system is currently operating at elevated levels. Fascinating." "This is a nightmare," Jinho muttered. "This is an actual diplomatic nightmare." "I disagree," Kaya said. "This is merely unexpected. The Velksari Council will be interested in my findings regarding human responses to direct genetic partnership proposals." "The Council knows about this?" Jinho felt his situation getting worse by the second. "They approved my research methodology," Kaya confirmed, "though I admit the direct approach was my personal decision. I hypothesized that humans would appreciate honesty over subtle manipulation. There's honesty, and then there's..." Jinho waved his hands helplessly. "This!" Doyen had recovered enough to speak. "So let me get this straight. Your government sent you to study humans, and you decided to ask one of us about having kids. As research." "Partially research," Kaya said. "Partially personal curiosity." The way she said it made everything worse somehow. The fact that she was being completely sincere, that she saw nothing wrong with what she'd said, that she was watching Jinho with those black eyes like he was the most interesting thing in the galaxy. Somewhere in the back of his mind, beneath the panic and confusion, Jinho realized that this moment had just changed everything. Not just for him, but for human Velksari relations. Because if Kaya was here asking questions like this, it meant the Velksari were thinking about humanity in ways nobody had expected. And he had absolutely no idea what to do about it. Jinho needed air. Well, he had air. He needed something. Space. Distance. Maybe a new career path that didn't involve alien intelligence officers making extremely personal suggestions. "Okay," he said, forcing his voice to stay level. "Everyone just take a breath. We need to think about this rationally." "Rationally?" Doyen's voice cracked. She just proposed making hybrid babies like she was ordering lunch. I did not propose immediate reproductive activity, Kaya corrected helpfully. I merely stated that theoretical offspring would be aesthetically and genetically favorable. Human courtship typically involves extended social interaction before genetic combination. Oh, good, Hyun said flatly. She knows about courtship. That makes this so much better. Mina's voice came through the comm, tight with barely controlled panic. Jinho, I'm picking up energy signatures, multiple contacts closing fast from both directions. Jinho's stomach dropped. Both directions? Human ships from our side, Velksari from theirs. Big ones. Mina paused. They're not slowing down. Of course they weren't. The patrol had gone dark for too long. Command would have noticed, and if Human Command noticed, Velksari Command definitely noticed. Now both sides were sending reinforcements, probably assuming the worst. We need to move, Jinho said. Kaya, can you walk? Affirmative. The medical treatment was adequate. She stood smoothly, all four arms moving in a coordinated gesture that looked almost like stretching. Though I should note that my ship's navigation systems recorded this conversation. Standard intelligence protocol. You recorded that? Doyun shouted. The thing about kids is now in Velksari intelligence files? All data is recorded, Kaya said, seemingly unaware of why this might be a problem. The conversation will be analyzed by the Council's Xenopsychology Division. Your reactions provide valuable insight into human social taboos and emotional response patterns. Jinho felt his chances of a normal military career evaporating by the second. Great. Wonderful. That's just perfect. They moved out of the Velksari ship quickly, heading back toward their patrol route. Jinho's mind raced, trying to figure out how to explain this situation to command. How did you put this in a report? Rescued alien intelligence officer who then expressed interest in cross-species reproduction didn't exactly fit standard military language. Contacts are slowing, Mina reported. Looks like a human cruiser and a Velksari command vessel. They're taking positions on opposite sides of the neutral zone. They're not shooting at each other, right? Jinho asked. Not yet. But they're definitely staring each other down. Kaya moved beside Jinho with surprising ease considering her injuries. Her skin had shifted to a pattern of deep greens and blues, cycling through shades he hadn't seen before. This situation is escalating beyond initial parameters, she observed. You think? Doyun muttered. I should provide context, Kaya continued, as if she was teaching a class. The Velksari Empire has existed for approximately 4 million of your years. In that time, we have achieved what we considered genetic perfection. Our DNA is stable, predictable, optimized for intelligence and longevity. Sounds nice, Hyun said, though he clearly wasn't paying full attention. He was watching the scanner, tracking the incoming ships. It is stagnation, Kaya said quietly. We are dying slowly. For the past 100,000 years, no Velksari child has been born with anything novel. No new abilities, no unexpected traits, no evolution. We are a species frozen in time, unable to adapt or change. That made Jinho pause. You're dying? Not individually. Collectively. Kaya's voice held something that might have been sadness. We optimized ourselves into an evolutionary dead end. And then we discovered humanity. Let me guess, Jinho said. We're not optimized. You are chaos incarnate, Kaya said, and there was definitely emotion in her voice now. Your DNA is messy, unstable, prone to mutation and variation. By our standards, you should not be a successful species. Yet in 2 centuries, you accomplished what takes most civilizations 10,000 years. Because we're stubborn and crazy, Doyun offered. Because you adapt, Kaya corrected. Because every human is different. carrying genetic variations that create an endless wellspring of novelty. You are what we lost millions of years ago. You are what we need to survive." The weight of her words hit Jinho hard. This wasn't just one alien being weird. This was an entire empire looking at humanity like a life raft. "So, when you said that thing about children," Jinho said slowly, "you weren't just talking about me specifically." "I was talking about you specifically," Kaya said, "but also about the broader potential between our species. The Velksari Council has been debating this for 3 years. Some believe partnership with humanity could revitalize our genetics. Others believe you are too dangerous, too unpredictable." "What do you believe?" Jinho asked. Kaya's skin flashed through a rapid series of colors. "I believe you are remarkable. I believe your capacity for irrational compassion, demonstrated when you chose to save me, represents something valuable beyond mere genetics. I believe—" She paused, and for the first time seemed uncertain. "I believe I may have been too direct in expressing this." "You think?" Doyen said again, but with less anger this time. "Human social protocols are more complex than our briefings indicated," Kaya admitted. "Among Velksari, when genetic compatibility is identified, it is discussed openly. Emotions are not involved in the calculation, but you experienced significant emotional distress when I made the statement." "Because humans don't separate emotion from that stuff," Hyun explained. "When you talk about having kids with someone, it implies feelings, relationships. It's not just a genetic equation." "Fascinating," Kaya said softly. "This explains many inconsistencies in human behavioral patterns." "Corporal, both ships are hailing," Mina cut in. "They want to know your status and the status of the Velksari contact." Jinho took a deep breath. Time to face the music. "Patch them through. Both of them." His helmet display split into 2 video feeds. On one side, Commander Soman of the Human Defense Fleet, her expression stern and controlled. On the other, a Velksari he didn't recognize, its skin a rigid pattern of silver and black that probably meant something official. "Corporal Jinho," Commander Soman said sharply, "report your status immediately." "This is Magistrate Vol," the Velksari said, its voice deeper than Kaya's and somehow more mechanical. "You are in possession of Velksari intelligence personnel. Explain." Jinho felt 3 sets of eyes on him, his squad waiting to see how he'd handle this, and Kaya watching with that intense curiosity that had started this whole mess. "We encountered a disabled Velksari scout ship in neutral space," Jinho said, keeping his voice professional. "1 survivor. Injured but stable. We provided medical assistance. And you did not report this immediately because—" Commander Soman's tone could have cut steel. "Because I was making sure she wasn't going to die while I filled out forms," Jinho replied. "Seemed like the human thing to do." He saw Soman's expression twitch. Just slightly. She didn't approve, but she understood. "The intelligence officer will be returned to Velksari custody," Magistrate Vol stated. It wasn't a request. "She's in neutral space, injured, and under my protection," Jinho countered. "She goes where she wants to go." Both commanders looked surprised at that. Even Kaya turned to stare at him. "Corporal, you are creating a diplomatic incident," Commander Soman warned. "With respect, Commander, I think the incident already exists," Jinho said. "We can either handle it honestly or pretend it didn't happen and make it worse." Magistrate Vol's skin patterns shifted rapidly. "You dare to dictate terms?" "I dare to treat an injured person with dignity," Jinho shot back, "which is apparently a foreign concept to both of you right now." Beside him, Kaya made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Remarkable," she whispered. "Officer Kaya," Magistrate Vol said, its attention shifting. "You will return to the ship immediately." "I request permission to continue my research," Kaya said calmly. I believe direct interaction with humans will provide valuable intelligence. Your research methods are under review, Vol replied coldly. Your behavior has been erratic. My behavior has been effective, Kaya countered. I have learned more about humanity in the past hour than 3 years of observation provided. Commander Somin held up a hand. Everyone stop. Corporal, bring the Velksari to the rendezvous point. We'll figure this out diplomatically. She's not cargo, Jinho said. Then what is she? Somin asked. Jinho looked at Kaya, who was watching him with those bottomless black eyes. She's someone asking questions. Maybe we should try answering them instead of treating this like a hostage situation. The silence that followed was deafening. The silence stretched across space like a physical thing. Commander Somin stared at Jinho through the video feed with an expression that promised a very long conversation later. Magistrate Vol's skin patterns had frozen into rigid lines of what might have been anger or confusion. You are proposing we negotiate? Vol asked finally. I'm proposing we act like adults having a conversation instead of children fighting over a toy, Jinho said. His squad had gone completely quiet behind him, probably shocked that their corporal was talking to 2 commanding officers this way. Commander Somin closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, something had shifted. Stand by, Corporal. The feed cut. Magistrate Vol's feed lingered for a moment longer. Officer Kaya, your actions will be reviewed by the Council. I understand, Kaya said calmly. Then that feed cut too. Jinho let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Well, I'm definitely getting demoted. Or promoted, Mina said over the comm. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever heard. Both, Doyen and Hyun said at the same time. Kaya tilted her head, studying Jinho with renewed interest. You risked your military career to defend my autonomy. This was not a calculated decision. No, it really wasn't, Jinho admitted. He sat down on a nearby rock, suddenly exhausted. I have no idea why I just did that. I do, Kaya said quietly. She moved to sit beside him, her 4 arms folding in a complex pattern that might have been contemplative. It is the same reason you rescued me. The same reason humanity concerns us so deeply. Because we're stupid and impulsive? Jinho asked. Because you possess something we lost, Kaya said. Among my people, decisions are made through careful analysis. We consider all variables, calculate optimal outcomes, choose the path of maximum efficiency. Her skin shifted through softer colors now. Blues and purples that seemed almost gentle. But sometimes the optimal path is not the right path. Jan sat down on Jinho's other side. You're saying Velksari lost the ability to choose what's right over what's logical? We lost the ability to distinguish between them, Kaya said. Logic became our only measure of correctness, and slowly, over millions of years, we lost the capacity for choices driven by emotion, intuition, or moral conviction. That sounds lonely, Jinho said. Kaya's skin pulsed with deep violet. I do not have a reference for loneliness that matches human experience, but I understand the concept intellectually, and I believe you may be correct. She stood, moving to face the stars visible through the viewport in the disabled ship behind them. When we first encountered humanity, the Council saw you as a threat, young species expanding rapidly, driven by irrational impulses. The logical response was containment or elimination. Cheerful, Doyon muttered. But I argued against that conclusion, Kaya continued. I volunteered to study you directly, to understand what drives human behavior, because I hypothesized that our fear of you was actually fear of what we had become. Which is, Jinho asked, stagnant, predictable, dead in all but biological function. Kaya turned back to them, and Jinho could have sworn her expression held something like pain. Do you know what it is like to live in a civilization where nothing changes, where every problem has already been solved, every question already answered, every possibility already explored. Sounds peaceful, Hyun offered. It is a tomb, Kaya said flatly. We exist in a state of perfect optimization with nowhere to go. No growth, no change, no future that differs from the past. We have achieved ultimate efficiency and lost all meaning. The weight of her words settled over the group. Jinho tried to imagine it. Living for hundreds or thousands of years in a society that never changed, never surprised you, never offered anything new. It sounded like hell. Then you discovered us, Jinho said. Then we discovered you, Kaya agreed. Chaotic, short-lived, inefficient, emotional, unpredictable humans who somehow conquered space in the time it takes us to complete a single building project. You should not be successful. By every Velksari measure, your species should have destroyed itself centuries ago. We nearly did, Jinho admitted. A few times. But you did not, Kaya said. You adapted. You changed. You grew. Every generation of humans is different from the one before. Your DNA shifts and mutates. Your societies transform. Your art evolves. You are alive in ways we have not been for millions of years. So when you said that thing about children, Jinho said carefully, about us making beautiful children together, you weren't just talking about genetics. I was talking about potential, Kaya said. She moved closer, and Jinho noticed that her skin had settled into a pattern of soft greens and golds. Velksari children are grown in controlled environments from carefully selected genetic templates. They are born knowing their purpose, their abilities, their entire life path. They are perfect and completely unable to surprise us. That sounds horrible, Jan said. It is logical, Kaya replied. But you are correct that it is also horrible. A human Velksari child would be unpredictable. It would carry both our longevity and intelligence and your chaos and adaptability. It would be something new, something we cannot calculate or control. Something that scares you, Jinho guessed. Something that gives me hope, Kaya corrected. The council is divided. Half believe partnership with humanity could save us. Half believe it would destroy us. Both may be correct. Doyen had been quiet, but now he spoke up. So what do you believe? Really? Not as an intelligence officer, as yourself? Kaya was quiet for a long moment. Her skin cycled through complex patterns that might have been the Velksari equivalent of deep thought. I believe that when I was alone in that ship, drifting toward death, I felt something I have rarely experienced. Fear. Not of death itself, but of dying without having truly lived, without having made a choice that mattered. And then we showed up, Jinho said. And then you showed up, Kaya confirmed. A human who chose to risk complications and protocol violations to save someone he did not know, who made a decision based on compassion rather than calculation, who demonstrated exactly the kind of irrational nobility that makes your species so remarkable. She looked at Jinho directly. When I made that statement about children, it was partially calculated. The council wanted data on human responses to direct genetic partnership proposals. But it was also honest, because in that moment, looking at someone who saved my life for no logical reason, I thought that children raised by such a person would indeed be beautiful. Jinho felt his face heating up again. You can't just say things like that. Why not? Kaya asked. It is true. Humans value honesty, do you not? We value it when it doesn't make us want to crawl into a hole, Jinho muttered. Kaya's skin flashed with bright colors that might have been amusement. This is another fascinating aspect of humanity. You want honesty but are uncomfortable when you receive it. You value emotion but are embarrassed by its expression. You are contradictions upon contradictions. We're a work in progress, Jinho said. You are magnificent chaos, Kaya replied, and I am beginning to understand why my people both fear and need you. Mina's voice interrupted over the comm. Hate to break up this moment, but both fleets are moving again. Looks like they're setting up for a meeting. Jinho stood, helping Kaya to her feet. Her lower right hand touched his arm briefly, a gesture that seemed both alien and somehow familiar. Thank you, Corporal Jinho, she said quietly, for showing me what it means to make a choice that is right rather than merely logical. Just Jinho is fine, he said. And you're welcome, I think. What happens now? Hyun asked. Jinho looked up at the stars where two fleets faced each other across the dark. Now we find out if our commanders are as good at making irrational but noble choices as random corporals. Kaya's skin pulsed with soft gold. I believe you humans call that hope. Yeah, Jinho said. We're pretty good at that too. They began the walk back to the rendezvous point. A human patrol squad and one Velksari intelligence officer who had accidentally started what might become the most important conversation between two species in galactic history. All because she'd whispered something completely inappropriate that also happened to be completely honest. Humans, Jinho thought, were definitely going to complicate the Velksari worldview, and maybe that was exactly what both species needed. The rendezvous point was a flat stretch of rock that looked like every other flat stretch of rock in the neutral zone. The only difference was that now it had two dropships landing on opposite sides, kicking up dust and creating a very literal line in the ground between human and Velksari forces. Jinho watched both ships set down, his stomach tight with nerves. This was way beyond his pay grade, way beyond his training. He was a patrol corporal who'd made one bad decision after another for the past few hours, and now he was standing at what might become the flashpoint for an interstellar incident. I could still run, he muttered. Too late for that, Doyen said, checking his weapon for the third time. Besides, where would you go? They've got ships. Could hide in a crater somewhere, live off ration packs, become a legend of the neutral zone. The hermit of Sector 7, Mina added over the comm. Future children will tell stories about the corporal who ran away from an awkward conversation. Despite everything, Jinho smiled. His squad had his back, even when he was being an idiot. Especially when he was being an idiot. Kaya stood beside him, her skin cycling through patterns he was starting to recognize as thoughtful. You are experiencing anxiety, she observed. Your heart rate has increased again. Yeah, well, I'm about to explain to my commanding officer why I didn't immediately report finding you, and then explain the whole children comment. So, yeah, anxiety seems appropriate. You could simply omit that detail from your report, Kaya suggested. You said it was recorded, Jinho pointed out. By Velksari intelligence, yes. But if your commander does not request access to those records, the information need not be shared immediately. Jinho looked at her. Are you suggesting I lie to my commanding officer? I am suggesting tactical information management, Kaya said. Humans do this frequently in your entertainment media. You call it diplomacy. That's not exactly what diplomacy is, Hyun said, but he sounded amused. The human dropship's ramp extended first. Commander Soman emerged, flanked by two security personnel in full combat gear. She looked exactly how Jinho remembered from their previous meetings. Competent, no nonsense, and currently very unhappy with him. The Velksari ship opened more slowly, its ramp extending with mechanical precision. Magistrate Vol emerged, along with two other Velksari whose skin patterns marked them as military personnel. They moved in perfect synchronization, every gesture coordinated. Both groups approached the center of the open area and stopped about 10 meters apart. Jinho noticed that neither side had weapons drawn, which was probably a good sign. Probably. Corporal Jinho, Commander Soman called out. Front and center. Jinho took a deep breath and walked forward. Kaya moved to follow, but he held up a hand. Maybe stay back for now. I am the reason for this meeting, Kaya said. I should participate. Just give me a minute to explain things first, okay? Kaya's skin flashed with curiosity, but she nodded and stayed put. Jinho approached the two commanders, very aware that every eye was on him. He stopped at attention between the two groups, feeling like the world's worst diplomat. Corporal, Commander Soman said, her voice tight, would you care to explain why you have created an interstellar incident? I found a disabled ship with an injured survivor, Jinho said. I rendered aid. That's standard protocol for rescue operations. Standard protocol also includes immediate reporting, Soman countered, not treating the survivor, having extended conversations, and apparently negotiating diplomatic terms without authorization. The survivor requested asylum, Jinho said. It wasn't exactly true yet, but he had a feeling it was about to be. Magistrate Vol's skin patterns shifted sharply. Officer Kaya has made no such request. She will return to Velksari custody for evaluation and reprimand. Reprimand for what? Jinho asked. She was doing her job. Intelligence gathering. That's what intelligence officers do. Her methods were inappropriate, Vol stated. She has demonstrated erratic behavior inconsistent with Velksari standards. Because she talked to me like a person instead of a data point? Jinho felt his anger rising. Because she was honest about what she was studying? Because she allowed emotion to influence her judgment, Vol replied coldly. This is unacceptable for Velksari personnel. Sounds pretty acceptable to me, Jinho shot back. Sounds like she actually learned something by being willing to engage instead of just observe. Commander Somin held up a hand. Corporal, stand down. This isn't your fight. With respect, Commander, it became my fight when I pulled her out of that ship, Jinho said. I'm not going to hand her over to be punished for doing her job well. You are overstepping your authority, Soman warned. Then court-martial me, Jinho said, but not until she's safe. Behind him, he heard Kaya make a soft sound. When he glanced back, her skin was cycling through rapid patterns of silver and gold that might have been surprise or something else entirely. Magistrate Vol's attention shifted past Jinho. Officer Kaya. Approach. Kaya walked forward with that same fluid grace, stopping beside Jinho. She looked at Vol directly, her skin settling into calm blues and greens. Magistrate, you will return to the ship, Vol commanded. Your research assignment is terminated. You will face review by the Council for violations of protocol and emotional compromise. I request political asylum with the Human Defense Fleet, Kaya said calmly. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind seemed to stop. Jinho stared at Kaya, shocked despite having half expected this. Commander Soman's expression went carefully blank. Magistrate Vol's skin patterns froze completely. You cannot be serious, Vol said finally. I am entirely serious, Kaya replied. I wish to continue my research on humanity through direct integration rather than distant observation. I believe I can provide valuable intelligence to both species and serve as a bridge between our civilizations. You would betray your people. Vol's voice held something Jinho hadn't heard from a Velksari before. Emotion, anger, maybe, or hurt. I would serve them better, Kaya said. The Velksari Empire is dying, Magistrate. You know this. The Council knows this. We face genetic stagnation and cultural ossification. Partnership with humanity may be our only path to survival. That is for the Council to decide, Vol stated, not for individual officers to determine through emotional impulse. Then perhaps emotional impulse is exactly what we need, Kaya countered. I spent 7 hours alone in that ship, Magistrate. 7 hours to contemplate my existence, and I realized that in my entire life I have never made a choice that was not calculated, approved, and predetermined. I have never acted on genuine desire or personal conviction. Her skin pulsed with deep purple. Then this human saved my life for no logical reason. He risked his career to defend me to his superiors. He demonstrated qualities I have only read about in files and reports. And I decided that I wanted to understand that. Not as data to analyze, but as experience to live. This is madness, Vol said. You speak like a human. Perhaps that is the point, Kaya replied quietly. Commander Soman cleared her throat. While this is all very dramatic, I need to point out that granting asylum to a foreign intelligence officer creates significant complications. We're talking about potential treaty violations, security risks, and political fallout. I offer full disclosure of all Velksari military intelligence I possess, Kaya said, turning to Soman. I will submit to any security protocols required. I will serve as a cultural liaison and translator. I can provide insights into Velksari technology, psychology, and political structures. You would give us your secrets? Soman asked skeptically. I would give both species the tools to understand each other, Kaya corrected. Secrets create division. Understanding creates possibility. Jinho watched this exchange with growing amazement. Kaya wasn't just asking for asylum. She was offering to become something entirely new, a bridge between two civilizations that had been watching each other warily for years. This is unprecedented, Magistrate Vol said. No Velksari has ever defected from the Empire. Because no Velksari has ever had reason to question the Empire, Kaya said. But I have seen something different. I have seen humans make choices based on compassion rather than calculation, and I want to explore what that means. She looked at Jinho, and her skin shifted to soft golds and greens. Corporal Jinho asked me what I believed, not as an intelligence officer, but as myself. This is my answer. I believe humans can teach us to be alive again, and I want to learn. Commander Somin studied Kaya for a long moment, then looked at Jinho. And you support this? Yes, ma'am, Jinho said without hesitation. I think she's trying to do something brave. Something that could change everything between our species. Or start a war, Soman pointed out. Or prevent one, Jinho countered. If we can understand each other better, really understand each other, that has to be worth something. Soman closed her eyes briefly, and Jinho recognized the expression. It was the same one he'd seen in the mirror earlier, the look of someone making a decision that was probably going to get them in trouble, but felt right anyway. Magistrate Vol, Somin said, I am granting provisional asylum to Officer Kaya pending diplomatic review and formal negotiations between our governments. She will remain in human custody under security protocols. This is an act of aggression, Vol stated. This is an act of diplomacy, Somin corrected. Your officer made a choice. We are respecting that choice while following proper channels. If the Velksari Council wishes to negotiate her return, they can do so through official diplomatic channels. Vol's skin patterns shifted through rapid sequences. The Council will not accept this. Then I guess the Council will need to actually talk to us, Soman said. Which is probably something that should have happened years ago. The magistrate stood rigid for a moment longer, then turned sharply and walked back toward the Velksari ship. The other Velksari followed in synchronized formation. As they reached their ramp, Vol paused and looked back. Officer Kaya, Vol called out, you have chosen chaos over order. I hope you do not come to regret it. I hope I do not either, Kaya replied. But even if I do, it will be my choice to regret. The Velksari ship lifted off, leaving behind swirling dust and the weight of what had just happened. Commander Somin waited until the Velksari ship was completely gone before turning her attention back to Jinho and Kaya. Her expression had shifted from military commander to something more complicated. Tired, maybe. Or just someone who'd realized her day had gone completely sideways. Everyone on the transport, she said. We're heading back to the fleet. And Corporal Jinho, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about decision-making and the chain of command." "Yes, ma'am," Jinho said. He'd known this was coming. Honestly, he was surprised she hadn't arrested him already. The flight back to the human fleet was quiet. Kaya sat in the rear compartment under guard, though the guards looked more confused than threatening. Jinho's squad sat together, nobody quite sure what to say. Mina kept glancing at him like she couldn't decide if he was a hero or an idiot. Probably both. Doyen finally broke the silence. "So we just started the biggest diplomatic incident in human history because an alien asked about kids." "That's not exactly how it went," Jinho protested weakly. "That's exactly how it went," Yan said. "And somehow you made it even bigger by standing up to two commanding officers and helping her defect." "I didn't help her defect. She made her own choice." "After you showed her that making your own choice was possible," Mina pointed out. "Face it, Jinho, you accidentally became the most influential human in interspecies relations." "I hate all of you," Jinho muttered. The transport docked with the fleet's main carrier, and they were immediately escorted to separate briefing rooms. Jinho found himself in a small gray room with a table, 2 chairs, and Commander Salman looking at him with an expression that promised nothing good. "Sit," she said. Jinho sat. Salman studied him for a long moment. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Saved someone's life and maybe helped 2 species start actually talking to each other," Jinho offered. "You violated first contact protocols, failed to report alien contact immediately, engaged in unauthorized diplomatic negotiations, and facilitated the defection of a foreign intelligence officer," Somin listed. "Any one of those could end your career. Altogether, they could land you in military prison." "Yes, ma'am," Jinho said quietly. "And yet," Salman continued, her tone shifting slightly, "you also prevented a potential military confrontation, gathered valuable intelligence on Velksari intentions, and opened a channel for direct communication between our species that didn't exist before." Jinho looked up, surprised. "Ma'am?" Salman sat down across from him, and for the first time she looked less like a commander and more like a person dealing with an impossible situation. "Off the record, Corporal, I think you're either the luckiest or stupidest soldier I've ever met. Possibly both." "I'm going with both," Jinho said. A small smile crossed Salman's face. "The thing is, you were right. About treating Kaya with dignity. About giving her a choice. About forcing us to actually engage instead of just maintaining our careful distance." She leaned back. "The Velksari have been watching us for 3 years. We've been watching them, both sides being very polite and very cautious and absolutely terrified of making the first real move." "And I made the move by accident," Jinho said. "You made the move by being human," Samin corrected. "By acting on instinct and compassion instead of policy and fear, and sometimes that's what situations need." "So I'm not going to prison?" "Oh, you're absolutely being disciplined," Salman said. "But probably not prison. Mostly because we need you for what comes next." "What comes next?" Salman stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "The Velksari Council is going to demand Kaya's return. They're going to threaten, they're going to posture, and we're going to have to decide how to respond." "We can't send her back," Jinho said immediately. "She asked for asylum. She made her choice." "I know," Somin said quietly, "but honoring that choice means standing up to an empire that's millions of years old and has technology we can barely understand. It means risking conflict. It means changing the entire dynamic between our species. Or it means showing them that we respect individual choice and freedom," Jinho countered. "That we're willing to take risks for what's right." Somin turned back to him. "And you think that's what this is? What's right?" "I think Kaya is a person, not property," Jinho said. "I think she deserves the same rights we'd give any human asking for asylum. And I think if we send her back after promising to protect her, We're telling the Velksari that our values don't mean anything. Even if it means war? Jinho hesitated. That was the weight of it, wasn't it? One person's freedom versus the safety of billions. But then he thought about Kaya, sitting alone in that disabled ship, contemplating a life that had never been her own. He thought about her courage in making a choice that terrified her. He thought about what humanity was supposed to stand for. I think if we abandon our values every time things get difficult, we don't really have values, Jinho said. We just have suggestions. Soman studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Fleet Admiral wants to meet you, and Kaya, in 1 hour. You're going to tell him everything that happened, including the part about children. Jinho felt his face heat up. Do we have to include that part? We absolutely have to include that part, Soman said, and now she was definitely smiling, because it's the most important part. It shows what Kaya was really trying to communicate, what the Velksari might really want from us. A future, Jinho said quietly. A future, Soman agreed. The question is whether we're brave enough to help them find it. An hour later, Jinho stood in front of Fleet Admiral Park, with Kaya beside him and Commander Soman standing nearby. The Admiral was older, with gray hair and eyes that had seen more combat than Jinho ever wanted to experience. He looked at Kaya with open curiosity. So you're the Velksari who started all this, Park said. I am Officer Kaya, she replied, and I apologize for the complications my actions have created. Complications, Park repeated. He looked at Jinho. Corporal, Commander Soman tells me you violated about 15 different protocols to protect Officer Kaya here. Yes, sir, Jinho said. Why? Because it was the right thing to do, sir. Park nodded slowly. And you, Officer Kaya, why seek asylum with us? Why risk everything to study humans up close? Kaya's skin cycled through thoughtful patterns. Because I believe humans possess something essential that my people have lost. The capacity for genuine change. The courage to make choices based on conviction rather than calculation. The beautiful chaos of being truly alive. Beautiful chaos? Park mused. That's one way to describe us. He stood and walked around his desk. I've been in the military for 40 years. I've seen humanity at its best and worst. And you know what I've learned? We're at our best when we're being stupidly brave. When we make choices that don't make sense on paper but feel right in our hearts. He looked at both of them. The Velksari Council is demanding your return, Officer Kaya. They're threatening economic sanctions if we don't comply. Some of my advisors think we should send you back to avoid complications. Jinho felt his heart sink, but Park wasn't finished. However, the Admiral continued, those same advisors can't give me a good reason why we should abandon someone who asked us for help just because it's politically convenient. And I've never been much for convenience when it conflicts with doing what's right. Kaya's skin flashed with bright silver and gold. You will grant me asylum? Provisionally, Park said. With conditions. You'll be under security watch. You'll have restricted access to sensitive information. You'll need to undergo extensive debriefing, and you'll serve as a cultural liaison between our species, helping us understand each other better. I accept all conditions, Kaya said without hesitation. Good. Park turned to Jinho. As for you, Corporal, you're being assigned as Officer Kaya's primary liaison. Since you started this mess, you get to help clean it up. Sir? Jinho asked, not sure if this was a punishment or promotion. You'll work with our diplomatic corps to establish communication protocols with the Velksari, Park explained. You'll help Officer Kaya adjust to human culture, and you'll be the face of human Velksari cooperation for the media, because this story is going to get out and we need to control the narrative. I'm not qualified for any of that, sir, Jinho protested. You weren't qualified to negotiate first contact either, Park said dryly. But you did it anyway, And it worked. So congratulations. Corporal, you're humanity's official bridge to the Velksari Empire. This is a nightmare, Jinho muttered. This is an opportunity, Kaya corrected. She looked at him with those black eyes that somehow seemed warmer than before. An opportunity to show both our species that cooperation is possible, that understanding can triumph over fear. Park smiled. I like her. She's optimistic. We need more of that. He grew serious again. But I want both of you to understand something. This isn't going to be easy. The Velksari are going to push back hard. There will be political pressure, possibly military posturing. Some humans won't trust Kaya. Some Velksari will consider her a traitor. We understand, sir, Jinho said. Do you? Park asked. Because you're about to become the most watched, most scrutinized, most important partnership in human history. Everything you do will be analyzed by both species. You'll be symbols, whether you want to be or not. Kaya and Jinho glanced at each other. Her skin was calm blues and greens now, peaceful colors. We will do our best, Kaya said simply. That's all anyone can ask, Park replied. 3 months later, Jinho stood in the observation deck of humanity's newest space station and wondered how his life had gotten so weird. Below him, through the massive viewport, he could see Earth hanging in the black like a blue marble. Above him, construction crews from both human and Velksari teams worked together to finish the joint research facility that would have seemed impossible just a few months ago. You look contemplative, Kaya said, approaching from behind. She'd learned to walk more quietly recently, adapting to human social norms about personal space and surprise. Her skin was calm greens today, which Jinho had learned meant she was content. Just thinking about how much has changed, Jinho said. 3 months ago, I was a simple patrol corporal. Now I'm a diplomatic liaison, cultural ambassador, and apparently the poster boy for human Velksari cooperation. You do appear on many posters, Kaya agreed. She stood beside him, all 4 of her hands clasped in a gesture she'd picked up from watching humans. I find it strange that humans feel the need to create images of people on large printed materials. Marketing, Jinho said. Humans are weird about that stuff. Humans are weird about many things, Kaya said, but her tone was fond. This is part of your charm. Jinho smiled. Over the past 3 months, he'd gotten used to Kaya's observations about humanity. She approached human culture like a scientist discovering a new species, fascinated by everything from coffee to music to the concept of sarcasm. Teaching her about human life had been exhausting, enlightening, and occasionally hilarious. Like the time she'd tried to understand human dating by watching romantic movies and concluded that humans bonded through shared traumatic experiences and grand gestures that made no logical sense. Jinho hadn't been able to argue with that assessment. How are the negotiations going? He asked. Kaya's skin shifted to more serious blues. Difficult. The Velksari Council still demands my return. They view my defection as a betrayal and a security risk. However, a minority faction has begun arguing that my choice demonstrates the very adaptability they claim to seek from humanity. Politics, Jinho said with a sigh. Indeed, though I am learning that human politics are equally complex. Kaya gestured to the viewport. Your species cannot agree on whether this facility is a brilliant step toward cooperation or a dangerous risk to security. Sounds about right, Jinho said. We argue about everything. It's kind of our thing. And yet you progress despite the arguments, Kaya observed. Or perhaps because of them. Velksari seek consensus before action. Humans act and argue simultaneously. It is inefficient but remarkably effective. Footsteps behind them announced the arrival of Jinho's squad. Mina, Doyen, and Hyon had all been reassigned to the cultural exchange program, mostly because they'd been present for the initial contact, and partly because Fleet Command figured if they could handle the chaos of that day, they could handle anything. Hey, Jinho, Mina called out. Kaya, you two ready for the big ceremony? The ceremony celebrating 3 months of successful diplomatic relations, Jinho said flatly, where we have to stand on a stage and smile while politicians take credit for our work. You are developing cynicism, Kaya noted. This is a human trait I was warned about. Stick around long enough and you'll get cynical too, Doyen said cheerfully. He'd become surprisingly friendly with Kaya, often asking her questions about Velksari technology that usually started with, "Could you make a bomb that—" Kaya found his enthusiasm both concerning and endearing. I doubt I will develop cynicism, Kaya said. Every day among humans continues to surprise me. Yesterday, I witnessed 2 of your politicians have what you call a debate. They shouted conflicting positions for 30 minutes, then went to lunch together as friends. This would never occur among Velksari. Yeah, we're good at separating professional disagreements from personal relationships, Hyan said. Usually, when we remember to. It is a valuable skill, Kaya said. Among my people, professional disagreement is personal disagreement. There is no separation. This leads to stagnation, as no one wishes to risk relationships by proposing new ideas. Jinho had heard variations of this observation from Kaya many times. The more she learned about humanity, the more she understood what the Velksari had lost in their pursuit of perfect logic and harmony. Conflict, messy and uncomfortable as it was, drove innovation and change. Humans fought and argued and disagreed, and somehow that made them stronger. Speaking of new ideas, Mina said, pulling out a data pad. The first batch of applications for the exchange program came in. 50 Velksari want to study human culture directly. 300 humans want to study with the Velksari. 300 seems high, Jinho said. Humans are curious, Kaya said. This is one of your greatest strengths. Velksari know everything already or believe we do. Humans constantly seek to know more. We're nosy, Doyun translated. She's saying we're nosy. I am saying you possess an admirable drive for knowledge acquisition, Kaya said primly. But her skin flashed with colors that Jinho had learned meant amusement. They made their way to the ceremony hall together, Jinho adjusting his dress uniform for the 3rd time. He still wasn't comfortable with this much attention, but he'd learned to deal with it, mostly by pretending the cameras weren't there and focusing on the actual work. The work had been incredible, actually. Over the past 3 months, human and Velksari scientists had begun sharing research. Velksari longevity studies combined with human genetic therapy programs. Velksari computational systems integrated with human creative problem-solving. Both species learning from each other's strengths and compensating for each other's weaknesses. Not everyone was happy about it. There were protests on Earth from people who didn't trust the Velksari. There were factions within the Velksari Empire who considered the entire exchange program a contamination of their pure society. But slowly, steadily, progress happened anyway. Because that was what humans did. They pushed forward into uncertainty, making mistakes and learning from them, adapting and changing and refusing to accept that anything was impossible. The ceremony was exactly as boring as Jinho had expected. Speeches about cooperation and mutual understanding and the bright future ahead. He stood on stage beside Kaya, both of them representing their species, while politicians used many words to say very little. But then Fleet Admiral Park took the podium and his speech was different. 3 months ago, Park said, a simple patrol corporal made a choice. He chose to save a life instead of following protocol. He chose compassion over caution. He chose to see a person instead of a potential enemy. Park looked directly at Jinho. That choice changed everything. Jinho felt his face heating up with embarrassment. Officer Kaya made a choice too, Park continued. She chose to risk everything she knew for the possibility of something better. She chose growth over stagnation. She chose hope over certainty. He paused. These two individuals, by making very human choices, showed both our species what cooperation could look like. Kaya's skin had shifted to soft golds and pinks, colors Jinho rarely saw from her. "We stand at the beginning of something unprecedented," Park said. "Two species learning to understand each other not as potential threats, but as potential partners. It won't be easy. There will be setbacks and conflicts. But if we face them with the same courage these two showed, I believe we can build something remarkable." The applause was genuine this time, and Jinho found himself actually moved by the words. Maybe this was working. Maybe they really were building something new. After the ceremony, Jinho and Kaya escaped to a quiet corner of the station, away from the crowds and cameras. They stood by another viewport, watching stars drift past. "Do you regret it?" Jinho asked quietly. "Leaving your people? Everything you knew?" Kaya was silent for a moment, her skin cycling through complex patterns. "I regret that my choice caused pain to some Velksari. I regret the political complications, but I do not regret the choice itself." "Why not?" "Because for the first time in my existence, I am learning rather than simply knowing," Kaya said. "Every day brings new experiences, new perspectives, new possibilities. Among the Velksari, I knew my entire life path from birth. Here I do not know what tomorrow will bring. This uncertainty is—" She searched for words. "Exhilarating." "That's very human of you," Jinho said with a smile. "Perhaps I am becoming human," Kaya said. "Or perhaps I am helping you become a little Velksari. Cultural exchange works both ways." "I'm not sure the galaxy is ready for humans with Velksari logic," Jinho joked. "I am certain the galaxy is not ready for Velksari with human chaos," Kaya replied. "But ready or not, change is coming." Doyon's voice came over Jinho's calm. "Hey, hate to interrupt whatever moment you two are having, but there's a media crew asking about that comment Kaya made during the first contact. You know." "The children thing." Jinho groaned. "That's never going away, is it?" "It has become quite famous," Kaya said. "Apparently humans find the directness amusing. There are what you call memes." "I've seen the memes," Jinho said darkly. "I wish I hadn't, but I've seen them." Kaya's skin flashed with definite amusement now. "You should embrace the fame, Jinho. We have become symbols of cooperation between our species." That statement, awkward as it was, represented the core truth of what we are attempting. "Which is?" "Building a future together," Kaya said simply. "Creating something new from two very different civilizations. The metaphor of children, while perhaps too direct, is not inaccurate." She turned to face him fully, all four hands moving in a gesture of sincerity. "When I made that statement, I was trying to communicate the potential I saw, the beauty that could result from combining Velksari patience and wisdom with human passion and innovation. I still believe that potential exists." "So do I," Jinho admitted, "even if the way you said it gave me a heart attack." "Your cardiovascular system recovered adequately," Kaya said, "and the incident did successfully initiate meaningful dialogue between our species, by making me the most embarrassed human in history." "A small price for interstellar cooperation," Kaya said, and this time her tone was definitely teasing. Jinho laughed despite himself. 3 months ago, the idea of a Velksari making a joke would have seemed impossible. But here was Kaya, learning to be playful, learning to be spontaneous, learning to be something her species hadn't been in millions of years. And maybe that was the real point of all this. Not just humans and Velksari working together, but both species learning to be better versions of themselves through understanding each other. "Come on," Jinho said. "Let's go deal with the media. Together?" "Together," Kaya agreed. They walked back toward the ceremony hall, a human and a Velksari, symbols of a new era of cooperation. Behind them, through the viewport, Earth and the stars watched over the beautiful chaos they'd created, and somehow, impossibly, it was working.